let's get to the last lap. That's the roundtable session on new business opportunities in insurance. How can the power of data and AI contribute? So, core of the session is a lot of focus on data and AI and how it can be used in 2-3 different ways, but most importantly, new business opportunities. We have a further set of 4 panelists I would like to invite. Also this time coming from 3-4 different perspectives, experiences. I'll start with Samir Parekh from ThinkSense from the UK, please. Then Richard Allan from Casco. Hi. Erika, long time no see.
Oh, she's
there. And Martin Obetko from Adastra. Hey. Great. So I don't need this, so why don't you share this on your table? And let's start with a round of introductions, starting with ladies first. So a bit about yourself briefly, in case I think I saw 3, 4, 5 people joining us. I know fintech is not as interesting as what's possible in insurtech. So yeah, we have some new audience. Just a very brief introduction about yourself and also the initiative you work on, that's Insurance Factory. So.
Yeah, insurance.
No, I don't think that's switched on. No.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, my company is the Insurance Factory, and I try to train the insurance manager in case of innovation, a lot of innovation methods, and how can we use the technology to create a value for our customers. This is one part, and the other part I'm organizing the Insurance Innovation Day once per year in Vienna, and to try to build the ecosystem in case of insurance world.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Martin Obetko. I'm working at Astra as managing consultant. I work in field of finance since 2009, so 10 years of experience. I work in several areas like leadership of CRM departments or digital transformation projects and so on and so forth. But what all connects all my experience are data. Now I work in at Astra. We are working in several fields. And in Astra, again, since 2000, we are focusing on data. And on not just data, because data itself, it's nothing, but from we are focusing on the value, getting the value from the data. And then working on top of it with the AI solutions, CRM solution, campaign management solutions, etc. We are working also on risk management. So we have broad experience in financial sector, in insurance, in banking. So I'm very happy to be here and to talk with you guys.
Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samir, and I've got about 16 years experience working in investment banking, predominantly high-frequency trading. Worked at Lehman Brothers. That would bring a smile, I'm sure. London Stock Exchange, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, Citibank, so on and so forth. And my startup, or scale-up as it is right now, is ThinkSense.ai. With expertise in AI, we try and resolve automation space, cognitive automation or cognitive robotic process automation, because what we find is predominantly the users of automation, they are not those people who are necessarily suffering, the technically medium spec people. So effectively what our startup does is provide automation for those people who are low tech savvy, and they can create an automation just by doing something on the desktop. No need of code required. It's cognitive in that aspect, and I'm sure I got a talk after this in which we would be able to talk on some of the cognitive and AI aspects of automation. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Richard Allan. I work for Casco on the business development and partnership side. Casco are an insurtech that have a platform enabling insurers, MGAs, sometimes banks, to launch digital insurance products quickly and cost efficiently. So as such, we can help insurers innovate on the product side and the distribution side, allowing them to test and learn in the market to see what works.
Excellent, thanks. And again, for some of the newcomers, in case you haven't heard me before, so I'm Samarth. I head European investments for an early stage fintech VC, fintech and insurtech VC called 630 Ventures, headquartered in the US. Loving the discussions and insights we are getting from the speakers and panelists. So let's get straight into picking their brains further. So basically, I think the big question is starting with data itself, but the new business opportunities, I think looking at probably, why don't you start off with what you see? I think new player, new opportunity, new data opportunities. I think you are a good start to how do we look at this?
Absolutely. I think data is now considered the new oil, so it's incredibly valuable. I think the biggest problem is utilizing that data. So insurers already have a ton of data that they're sitting on. It's about utilizing the data that they've got in their core systems, which can be a bit tricky, as well as connecting with external data sources. That can help in a couple of different ways. So one is at the core, pricing and managing risk, but also improving the customer onboarding journey. So maybe instead of having to ask the customer 50 questions, if you have some of the data already in your core systems or via external sources, reducing that question set and giving the customer easier time to get a quote and buy a policy.
Great. So before I just move to the second one, it was an interesting coincidence. So I think you started your career around 2009, and you mentioned you were part of Lehman Brothers until, of course, 2008-ish. I think one point I would like to bring out is there was this Lehman moment in financial services and fintech in particular. I mean, basically, at that time, just in financial services, which triggered a lot of pain around financial services, resulting in the kind of start of the fintech revolution or the fintech companies which took root. So there was real pain just after the crisis for individuals or small companies to be able to get credit because there was a credit crunch, there was a crisis, there was a lot of conservative sort of move from banks to just survive and stop lending to or doing business with high-risk customers. That pain probably did not exist or did not, there was no such moment for insurance. There was no such pressure on insurance, and I would say that was part of the reason why it took a bit more time for insurance to come back with offerings like Casco or offerings which require the use of data. It was only after some of the fintech guys or probably also the insurance incumbents leaving the insurance companies who realized the opportunity, if fintechs can do this, this is what is possible with insurance. But a lot of that, again, in the case of whether it was lending in the case of fintech, but what was that kind of moment, if I can ask you, Samir, what do you think was the moment when we saw insurance kind of starting to look at opportunities?
I think, Samarth, you're right, and I'm a firm believer in the statement, amidst calamity lies opportunity. So that was a trigger, clearly, but owing to the risk and the assimilation of new fintech products which were entering the market, clearly there was a translation of whether something better can be done in insurance industry as well. So I would say there was substantial moment in around 2010-ish years whereby the ground started picking up and translating those ideas from financial industry into insurance industry. These days we see very best of the ideas in terms of claim processing, management, risk assessment, data assimilation. I'm going to run through actually one of the case studies this afternoon as well, whereby you can read the risk profile of a person just by tapping into Twitter accounts or tapping into corresponding Facebook accounts. So when you consider new business opportunities, it is, I think, one of the prime areas that we should be looking at, whereby a customer, let's say one of those guys, who provided you his Facebook account or name of the Facebook account, and you know that this guy is, let's say, traveling to some sports activity or something, then rather than approaching him on a random basis with tons of different products, You can do personalization with a customer-centric approach, whereby you can approach them for a specific product, which is sport-specific, and open up new doors of opportunity for your business as well, whereby the customer is more readily able to buy those products as a service because he feels it's more personalized to his requirement. I fully agree on that data, it's oil, yes, but I think it's gold dust. You need to assimilate it. You need to absorb that data and put it into a certain form that your legacy systems can stitch it together and bring out valuable insights out of it. That's where we come in. We allow those stitching or cross-correlation of data seamlessly, because when you consider insurance, I'm sure every one of you guys would have tons of systems which are legacy. Some of those are aged, and now all of a sudden you see new data sources and henceforth new challenges to integrate them. And we'll be more than happy to discuss a bit later this afternoon about those.
Great.
May I just add a little bit, because very interesting topics were touched. I mean, like the data is the oil, definitely. Data is the essence of the future change, but data is the game changer, I would say, yeah? And not just data, because data itself, it's, you know, if they are sitting somewhere and nobody's looking at them, they're for nothing. But if you take the information from there, if you get the insights, if you use the data rightly, this is the goal, yeah? And what I think will change in the future is how the customers are treated. I mean, it's been 10 years that customer-centric approach have been talked about. However, only now it's really getting into real practice, yeah? And I see it also in the insurance companies that the customer is getting into the center. And not just the customer-centric view, but also the community, yeah, the family, really seeing the value of the customer, and this is the data which are moving, yeah. This is the change that is data bringing.
So if I can just modify the question a bit to your exposure to a lot of startups looking at the new trends, top 3 applications which you are seeing now which are like, this should be done, like all insurers or all insurance offerings should be doing this. What would be, in your opinion, those top 3 applications of data and AI? Like, this needs to be done now or yesterday already?
Yeah, this is a little bit difficult question, because I am looking from the insurance side, and what can we do with the insurance data? Because, you know, it's very nice that we have a technology that we can use AI and so, but we have to have the fact that the insurance industry is a very old industry, and I think the data quality is currently not the highest, or not so really able to manage that. If you have a greenfield operation, as for example a digital insurance, of course you have to have the data quality. But currently, from the history side, we cannot really, sometimes I think email address is missing from the legacy system. How can you manage with AI that, or how can you put the data in a quality that you create a value? And of course, the startups has the possibility, if they are cooperate with the insurance company, to get the data, to try a lot of things with the existing data, and create value. But what is this value? I think we have 2 parts of the view. One part of to analyze the data, to use for example, cross-selling, or for the client more information. And from other side, from the claim side, for example, if you are have an AI approach and you have a car accident, you can have very quick your calculation behind the claim. And of course, the process is going one step more, that you can get, if you are agreed with the amount, you can get your claims immediately to your bank account. And of course, for example, my favorite company, they are from US, the Lemonade. I think the approach from the sales approach, underwriting, the whole value chain, it was built in a digital approach, and of course the claims. Currently the Lemonade starting in Germany, I think in the last month. It will be interesting approach for the European market, but if we are looking from the investment side, 2018, more than 4 billion euro was invested from the investor in the insurtech scene, and a lot of interesting approach, of course, mostly based off AI. And the question is, you are part of the value chain, or you are build digital insurance, and this is two different type
Got
of
it.
the
Yeah. So I think one interesting way to look at it would be, again, I'll just come back to you, looking at Casco itself. So where did you start sort of looking at these? So when you went to insurance customers and said, okay, this is where we see the low-hanging fruit. What have you seen in the last 4 or 5 years already? I think you've been on the market.
4 years,
So what was the learning curve? What did you do in the beginning, and sort of where do you see now, again, the opportunities where you are able to convince insurers, you know, this is something which needs to be done, in particular with new business opportunities? So there where you say, okay, I'm not promising to change your core or give you the promised clean data and email, but this is what, even with all the legacy you have, this is what I can deliver. What are those 2-3 things?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were founded in 2015. Originally, we actually ran a MGA model where we'd go to the distribution side. So we'd go to the likes of Deliveroo or Airbnb and say, you've got loads of users, you should think about cross-selling insurance. And we then connect them with an insurer, build a product out of it, and make the connection technically. From doing that a few times, we realized that actually we were impressing the insurer side, maybe perhaps more than the distributor side. So from 2017, we've now become a cloud-based tech platform for insurers to launch their product ideas. And that does run into new opportunities. So we keep banging on the door to say, if you've got more opportunities than IT capacity, we're the ones to talk to. I think those cases are if product managers have lots of things that they'd like to try out in the market. They're not sure what data they'll get back. We can be used as like a sandbox solution to find out what's viable and see which bets need to be looked at further and put more money and time into. So I think it's just about realizing some of the projects that are currently stalled within insurers because of various things like IT systems, legacy systems, or capacity. Realizing them, getting obviously the market data actually back from a product in the market, and then looking at which ones to scale up from there.
So which would be those, like, can you give us 2 or 3 of the, either the product lines or examples of the...
Yeah, sure. I guess in the last 12 months, cyber's been a huge topic. Everyone's wanted to kind of launch their own cyber. So we've done retail, SME cyber lines. But really, our platform's product line agnostic, so can be used across any different product line and any different idea. We'd always encourage insurers to try and make the customer journey as friendly as possible. So a lot of the time, we kind of do push back a little bit when insurers want to ask the customer 50 questions, and maybe we're not even sure what they mean. So to us, yeah, it's about kind of guiding the insurer to make the customer journey as easy as possible on some of the ideas that they may already have in place.
Got it. So quickly switching to Martin, getting to the incumbents, looking at what we've learned from Casco, is it true that right now, in most of the cases, looking at the existing landscape, existing technology systems, or the existing data, it's more or less impossible for incumbents to launch their own sort of very digital and very experimentative models? Is it therefore better to kind of start off in sandboxes or separate areas, probably working with partners like Casco? What do you see on the ground?
I mean, if you ask about like insurance companies, if you ask about like big companies, every big company have the they have scale, but they are lacking the speed, they're lacking the flexibility, agile, and it's not a bad thing. Yeah, it's like natural thing of the big companies. The relationship between big companies and, let's say, insurtechs, I wouldn't say about a relationship, but partnership. And this might be the win-win partnership, yeah? The insurtech will bring the speed, will bring the new ideas, will bring disruptive products. However, what insurance companies can give them is the scale. Yeah, so I think it's a win-win situation where the partnership is the answer. Yeah, the question is to choose the right insurtech and to choose the right insurance. Yeah, I mean, like this matching have to be inevitable, but I think this is the future. Yeah.
Okay, so let's assume I'm coming to you, as you would have already. You can have that sip of water, but basically, I'll just build up a bit on what we have learned so far. So, can I summarize so far like this? So, insurance companies are right now too busy doing things the old way. It takes a lot of time and, in many cases, a lot of manual effort, and it's very hard for them as a big ship, living right next to Danube, probably it's the right example. So given it's like a big ship, how do you become speedboats? It's probably very difficult to do that. And maybe the answer lies in also parallelly, while you're exploring either creating your own units or exploring partnerships with players like Casco, or even being behind or partnering with players coming up, like we heard, Mutu Mutu. In the meantime, what is happening? What can we do to get more done in parts of the organization, of the legacy organization? What can be automated? What data inside the organization can be, cleaned up, made more ready to be used, and so on? What do you think, given that you are in the heart of that space in the organization?
Thanks, Samarth. So normally, what I observe and have been observing in my past experiences...
Sorry, if you can just hold your mic a bit.
So what I observe and what I had been observing in my past experiences is, if an organization chooses to go with a big bang approach, if it's hugely risky, so normally no organization would choose to do so. One has to go through block by block approach. For insurance, normally we've observed claim processing, underwriting management, processes like claim complaints or maybe appeals towards a claim, settlement of a claim. Those are the low-hanging fruits, which you can automate really quickly. Some of those, for example, claim processing, we have demonstrated with some of our partners that that can be automated within a couple of days, let alone months. So when you go on for these kind of tactics whereby you handle the low-hanging fruit first, you can slowly and steadily bring to life a really, really slow old boat and then push it towards making into a rightly fast-moving boat. It's not something that you say, hey, one fine morning I switch off all the old systems and I would have all the new systems in place. Clearly, that's never going to happen, in my opinion at least. You have to go slowly, steadily, block by block, just turn the switches on and off. It is good in risky approach as well, because if something doesn't work, you always have a fallback. So it's good in that way. And plus insurance, some of you mentioned it's an old industry, but what I say is it's the correct time. It's the correct time for this industry to step into new technologies. There are ways available, there are partners available who can help you reach that journey much faster. Digitization of documents, OCR, AI, patching things up. Speak to us, we'll be more than happy to help. But there are some low-hanging fruits that you have to tackle in your own organization. 5 or 6 processes. I've got tons of other processes. We've got case studies with those. But those are really, really low-hanging fruit. In a couple of days or a month, you can deliver huge value to your organization. So why don't we start with those then?
Got it. So with basically, if we are able to get some of the, as an organization, if the insurers are able to cut some of the efforts around the claims processing or the repeatable tasks, basically you're freeing up efforts to be able to think about newer, shiny things like...
There is some headroom.
There is some
headroom to work on something interesting, building something new. If you're going to ask the management saying we want a fresh budget to hire X number of people, there is going to be a certain pushback. But rather than doing that, it's always good to reskill the staff, which is already existing and available, and turn that low-hanging fruit aside so that that staff can be utilized for some high-value stuff.
Got it.
Ensuring.
Now, good. Okay. So I'm just coming to a specific area of the use of AI. I think we looked at some of the examples in our previous roundtable as well as some of the presentations, especially the one from Zurich. Is there a kind of gap between the promise of AI, so what AI is able to do, what is the potential, and how it actually relates to what's the starting point of organization? So my feeling was, based on my conversations or talking to some of the startups who are, so there are two extremes I saw of one, let's say, data robo type of companies who are saying they can democratize or make AI explainable and put data science in the hands of business users, etc. On the other extreme, we see examples of companies who are hyper-focused, who started with roots, either with roots or with co-founders who were very closely connected to, let's say, health insurance. So there's a company, Israeli company called Atidot, means the future in Israeli, or in Hebrew, sorry. And basically, these guys are saying, or they are focused particularly on looking at life insurance data. How do you look at that entire piece? How do you connect? How do you first look at your internal data? How do you look at external data, combine it to find literally new opportunities in insurance? Which of these do you see succeeding on the ground, and probably experience from both of you? Is it something, which of these approaches are working? Do you have the capability within incumbent organizations where you can look at raw AI power or raw AI tools and build upon that to be able to differentiate? Or would you rather look at very specialized tools who have solved most of the vertical problems?
Yeah, I would say the most amazing industry regarding data is the insurance industry. I cannot imagine other industry that a lot of possibilities to get the data from the client in every life cycle. But of course, with history, as I mentioned. And currently the insurance industry learning how can I use this data to more value. But currently this is, for example, you are mentioned data science. I think I cannot promise that every insurance company has this job with job description, because yes, of course, from the regulatory you have to have actuary. Currently we try to move from the actuary side to the data science, but this is a learning approach. They have to learn the systematical way to work with the data. For example, what happened with the data? Of course, this descriptive point of view. Or for example, why did it happen? You have to analyze it, diagnostic view. Or the next step, what will happen next? Do you using the predictive point of view? Or for example, what should we do with this data? The perspective view. This is a learning approach. And I see the international insurance market, and of course, this is a learning approach. It's not everybody knows the systematic way to using the data.
Got it. Yeah,
May I just
please.
Yeah, thank you. Regarding the data, I mean, like insurance, yes, they're in a phase of transforming to really be able to get insights from the data. I mean, in here, the big thing is data enrichment, yeah, to get the data, not just from the customer, but maybe other sources. Here the Facebook was mentioned. Facebook is a little tricky, let's say, but okay, the data enrichment itself, it's really a big story. once you have the data, and you have plenty of them, and with digitalization, you will have much more data every day. Yeah, like today and tomorrow and next year, it's different world. Regarding the AI, is a hype, yeah, to be honest. I mean, like, it's not new. It's here since 60s, 70s. What is different now is that the power of the systems will enable you to use the real AI, the artificial intelligence. We have the experience, for example, particularly in insurance company. AI is not for every part of the company, yeah? But for example, fraud management, this works perfectly. From traditional rule-based engine, when at the beginning it works because it's set up, yeah, 100, 300,000 rules works. However, you have to calibrate it. And what AI is doing is calibrating by you, yeah? So you don't have to do anything. We have the implementation where out of the tracked fraud, let's say 100%, rule-based engine was able to automatically detect 10, 15%. When we implement their AI system, we were able to automatically detect 70% of the cases. So it's a great difference, yeah. Another solution for AI is OCR. So you extract the data from the ID automatically. Customers don't have to fill it and don't have to write it on the paper, yeah. The paperless processes, this is something like, this is the way how the industry is changing right now, yeah. So I see many of the implementations, but many obstacles as well, yeah. AI is definitely not the answer for everything. I mean, regulatory reporting for national bank, you wouldn't like AI to do, yeah.
Clearly not. It requires natural intelligence.
Right, so I like the numbers. Let's move to also some real numbers on some of the case studies. I think we'll be seeing some of those in detail, but just to get a feel of what has been possible so far with some of your flagship clients, what is it that you can do with ThinkSense that's, what's the saving percentages?
When it comes to percentage savings, we were able to demonstrate 85% saving on some of the claims management processes. Mm-hmm. Accuracy-wise, let's say the appeal processes, 98% of those ones. For AI-based OCR, it's more than 88% accurate. That's one of the best ones in the industry. And we do process about 160 languages in AI-based OCR. So pretty much, so one of our clients who used to do claim forms, which are handwritten, they need to be digitized. So this one, instead of taking 1 day for the form to come onto the system and be onboarded, it now takes not more than 15 seconds or something for the entire thing to be onboarded and unloaded onto the system. Plus, there's a fantastic use case that we have with, so every insurance company normally puts a pot of money as a reserve that they need to just in case pay out as the claims. But when it comes to AI, it can actually take non-correlated sources of data. For example, the weather forecasting on the other part of the world where people normally go for traveling or tourism purposes in order to correlate it with whether you would have to pay out X amount of money or not. Henceforth, you can calibrate your pot that you put it into reserve that way, and whatever excess is coming from that pot, you can actually put it out and reinvest it in the market. So this is one of the newest areas of business which we are observing. With the use of AI, you can calibrate that pot of money and tap into hitherto unknown sources of income which were hidden up till now. The immense use cases are massive. And when you consider the percentage savings, we've got case by case, all upwards of 80% savings soon coming in. It is something that is the future that we are looking, whereby actuaries will slowly be reskilled towards data scientists, slowly and steadily. It is going to happen. No ifs or buts about that. It's more about how can we make the technology so easy for them to assimilate it and slowly start transitioning towards understanding the data, the value of data.
Okay, so I think the closest to these kind of experiments are you as well. So experiments in the sense there's the ability to start using incumbent existing data. There is the ability to launch completely new products, starting with from the scratch customer data. Where do you see, will it be more dramatic and, new products which are gaining adoption, or would it be a slower, so examples of, let's say, Lemonade coming into Germany, or incumbents with their trust and with their brand launching newer products in partnership with players like you? What do you see is going to work out in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. Absolutely. So in the short term, we can see more data being utilized, whether that's from internal sources or external sources. And that will create better price and underwriting models as well as the customer experience. I think in the longer term, what might be an interesting model is if insurers start to move from a compensation-driven business into slightly more of a preventative business, when they've got such a quantity of accurate data that they can actually predict things and nudge their customers before certain eventualities actually happen. If they do move into that kind of model in the future, I think the customer will be more engaged with insurance, and it will become a much more popular industry as well, if they're actually nudging you before something bad actually happens, if they can do.
Okay. Within that, how much of this is, again, just harking back to the new business opportunities in insurance, how much of that new opportunity is getting generated, so which means basically distribution, the ability to reach new audiences using new data-driven campaigns or new data-driven targeting of segments, etc. How much of that is happening on the ground now with either yourself or looking at other incumbents, what they're doing?
Yes, I think it's happening more and more. I think it's more a case of, I think it's always happens where incumbents are kind of testing out new ideas, distributing to new different partners. But I think now insurers are looking at partnerships more and more. If we as an insurtech can prove or show the art of what's possible and show that tech doesn't have to always be clunky and expensive to use, then yeah, we can realize some of the opportunities that are laying stagnant within the industry at the moment.
Can you give an example or two where how this played out, percentages, numbers type of thing?
Yeah, sure. So we've got about 20 insurer clients at the moment on about 40 different products. Mainly we started in the P&C space, as that was probably the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest products to kind of digitalize quickly. But now we're starting to move across to SME, commercial lines, as well as having talks with health and life companies as well. Working in 6 different countries now, but really it is a case of us given an option or an alternative to actually realize some of the ideas and opportunities that are out in the market and that are being kind of stagnated or stalled.
Okay.
These include, like last year was cyber was a really hot topic, but our products are from like travel, motor, item insurance, all the way through to like SME risk insurance. It really is dependent on what opportunities there are in a changing market.
And then let us take just 1 or 2 of those products and maybe 1 or 2 clients. Within that, how far did it move the needle for the organization? So let's say in terms of, it's fine, we understand that it is all right now in this initial stages, but looking at the number of customers you already have and the number of customers either you are adding to the existing base or even completely new product launches, what do the numbers look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So as well as like test and learn, we also help insurers scale up products. So for Baloise in Switzerland, we've done a few different products with them, a multi-item insurance where we've bundled 100 different items into one product, and then rolled that out throughout all of their distribution channels, including all their agents, brokers. We also managed to create an onboarding process for agents to onboard shops on the ground. So agents could actually go in and onboard offline shops that are selling these items like watch retailers and things like that, so that they can actually increase their distribution. So I think in Switzerland it's 1,000 policies a week, which is quite good on that item insurance for Switzerland, as well as quite a small country in terms of population. The key really is to, as we mentioned, looking at like the big bang approach of figuring out what the perfect product is very difficult. And I think it really takes insurers to test and learn to see what works. So instead of across kind of 12 to 18 months thinking about what is going to work and trying to get it perfect, we always encourage insurers to try and get something out into the market initially, especially if it's quite quick and cheap to do so. Then look at what works and then take your bets from there. Because I think insurers can obviously launch products themselves, but realizing what or predicting what the perfect product is very difficult. So that's where insurtechs like us can come and help them try out a few different ideas, see which ones are commercial, and then scale them up from there.
Okay. So I think taking on from there, would you also, be able to say if these are mostly new customer segments, or like are these younger customers in some cases?
Yeah, so new customer segments as well as existing ones. So we can help with new product launches as well as digitize existing products. So if an insurer is currently doing lots of manual processes, even writing out forms, posting, those kind of things we can replicate very easily in a digital manner.
Got it.
But a lot of our use cases are connecting to new digital distribution and ecosystems, so a lot of them are new customers.
Right, and then, yeah, basically I'm taking on to just come back to you. No, that's you. Okay. So what I'm thinking is basically probably the first adopters, having also looked at some of the so the advertisement for Mutu Mutu, and looking at, you are probably the youngest among us, after him maybe. So just trying to pick your brains on, does it make sense? So are these new customers, when you pitch to them, or not even pitch, actually, like when they look at these advertisements or the channels they need to be reached and the reasons they would switch? So I did that poll, which was just based on a raw number of, okay, 20% savings if you do this. But of course, there are other aspects involved, like ease of onboarding, you are about to start driving your friend's car and you're maybe one beer down already. Why not in Bratislava? Great beer around. And therefore, I don't know about the limits here, but Germany at least, yeah, you're allowed 2 small beers.
Zero.
But oh, it's 0 here, yeah. So sorry, it doesn't make sense here. But just to have that, if you can quickly get insured before you are getting into the car or something like that. So ease of getting insurance and so on start to matter. There's one question, or there's a bunch of 2-3 questions which were part of the discussion, which are essentially looking at, in summary, sustainability, green, climate change. These are issues which, if we had talked about these things to our parents, they would say, you are becoming a hippie or something. And today, I think most of them do have a lot of sense of, the insurance I have is this, supporting this, supporting green. How do we look at climate change? How do I contribute towards the carbon footprint? Do you see something like this anywhere among your clients? I think both you and Erika, if you can just comment, is this something which you see already in this segment?
Definitely, yes. I mainly touched a few things, few areas which are very much connected, and maybe the connection is the green thinking. Yeah, I mean, what is the differentiation factor for the customer, and how he is deciding, and not only in insurance but everywhere, is the easy way how he can get the product. Yeah, are there any barriers? Do they ask the questions that they already should know? I mean, like there are many things that they should know about me. Why should I fill the form twice, 3 times, 4 times? Why should I fill the form? Why is there any paper anymore? Yeah, I mean. Not just customers, but also the organizations are thinking how to plan it, maybe directly, indirectly. Paperless processes is something that makes sense, which we are helping our customers, and we are trying to be as well in Adastra. I mean, thinking green, I don't know if you saw the vehicle that I came on. It's not a big thing, yeah, it's like electric scooter, but these small things might make change, yeah. So definitely paperless processes, a lot of automation, customer care, how the companies treating me? Do they know me? Are they interested in me? Am I in the center of the interest? I mean, like, this is the thing that will change, and this is the thing that the people are looking. It doesn't matter if it's insurance, healthcare, telco, or wherever, because you are having your experience. And if you have good experience in telco, you expect the good experience in insurance, in banking, everywhere. I mean, like, even in police, yeah, or bureaucracy. So, I mean, like, not just the customers, but also the companies are thinking green. And the key is, with the green, you also help the customer journey to be good, yeah,
right.
To be at the right points with the customer at the right time. I mean, to know where are the events and what they are, yeah, to understand them and to predict them, not just know from the past, but to know when they will be. So yes, I think it's moving. And maybe just one more comment. Yeah. It's not from insurance industry, but I like it. In Czech Republic, for example, you can buy a green energy. Yeah, it's a little more green energy, green electricity. Okay. It's a bit more expensive, but you have the calculator there where you see immediately that, okay, if I use electricity for lighting, for cooking, I can save 205 trees, I can save 1 ton of coal, and I can save 10,000 kilometers driven by the car. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, you pay a little more, but you know that you are saving the planet or helping the planet at least, yeah? So I think, yes, the people are thinking green, or at least starting to feel.
So I'll just catch on to one part of your answer and tying it together with the new customer, the new way of thinking of these new customers, and just ask that modified version to Erika, which is basically saying, summing it all up and looking at what he mentioned about new ways of distributing, new ways of the new ways in which customers are thinking before buying anything. Do you think a lot of it, and also especially the customer onboarding and servicing experience, do you think a lot of insurance will be actually just served as a side dish, if you put it? So you are going to drive a car, you are going to go on a holiday, you are going to do maybe high risk sports, adventure. Is most of that going to be tied, most of the insurance offerings start getting tied to those, or would you still remain like big brands, Zurich or Allianz and so on?
Yeah, I think from the insurance industry perspective, we have two views. One part of us company with employee, what activities doing the insurance company for the world or against climate change. Because this is not new for the insurance industry, because I think CSR, it's corporate social responsibility, is I think in the last 10 years is a topic. Every report from different auditing, and so it is include which company is doing systematical for this kind of activities. And the other side, it is coming from the nature of insurance. Of course, they have to inform, they have to analyze the climate change, they have to think about how can I save the earth for the future, because you know, if you are an insurance company and a lot of flood, and so you have to calculate from the reinsurance side and everything. It is nature of the insurance. They think about this. For example, the Austrian Association of Insurance is prepared. The name is HORA. This is a flood warning system. And I think every European countries working very intensive with the insurance industry, because everybody has the interest to inform the people, to have more from the predictive point of view, more prevention view. What can you do for the against image, against climate change, and so I think this is very complex, and I think the insurance industry awareness is here and working on it.
Got it. So on those lines, I think one example I would remember in terms of, you know, the way insurance is now being created. we heard of a company called Battleface about a month or two ago. I'm sure some of you may be familiar with it. So just the way they got started is interesting, and then see how it pans out. So I think they started about 3-4 years ago. As the name says, Battleface was offering specialty travel insurance to people traveling to war zones. So basically journalists, aid workers, missionaries, all kinds of people who are basically going to these high-risk areas. So we are talking Syrius, Baghdad, or Middle East, or Somalia, and so on, where there is serious risk, and built upon that, and now basically says, you know, if we can quantify that kind of risk and we can offer insurance for high-risk profiles like that, they're now looking at how do you move that into adjacent similar insurance, where basically people knowingly are going to high-risk situations. And suddenly now there is an interesting connect to people who are young and very sporty, like they want to do adventure sports, serious high risk, so like Antarctica on a kite. I don't know what that's called, but basically using a kite crossing the Antarctica or Arctic or something like that. Or even, I think somebody was a mountaineer, our insurer from Zurich. So all of these guys, when they're doing high-risk situations, it's something relevant. So yeah, just looking at the way that it might develop. But I think that's from me. To just finish off, we have a set of questions. Let's focus on that. And then count down to 5 minutes to our lunch. I think we are all hungry, having spoken or heard, I'm sure, but let's get going. I would say let's just, whoever feels best qualified to answer would do that, except when there is specifically somebody said, it has to be Richard. So apart from that, let's get going. Moving insurance model from compensate to prevent. Do you see decreasing the premium paid by customer? Is it possible? You want to take that?
Yeah, may I just, I had a recent discussion with the insurance company in Slovakia, if it is possible, if there is any way how to do it. And I think in Slovakia it's not right now, but imagine a situation that you have a IoT solution sitting in your car, or even your mobile, because mobile is tracking a lot of things. And it can track you how fast you go through the curve, how fast you drive on the highway, how risky you brake, etc., yeah? And if it might be possible, it shouldn't be about the punishment of the bad drivers, but it should be about giving better payments for the good one. Mm-hmm. And the same applies for the like health insurance. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're sporty, not extreme sporter, yeah, but if you're sporting, if you go to gym, if you eat health, you should have better payments, or at the end, better condition. And in Slovakia, maybe some pilots were done. However, in Europe, we see some cases which works. Yeah. For example, if you have the permanent to the gym and you really enter the gym regularly, you get better payment. Yeah. So it's kind of happening even now. Yeah.
Good.
And maybe one point to add, we're already looking at a product in the cyberspace where users can use this third party that very quickly identifies what kind of security they're running. From that, they can get an updated quote. They can obviously use it or not, they can decide. But if they use it, there is a list of preventative methods that they can take to increase their security and reduce their premium. So I guess it does depend line by line how easy it is to start, but on some cases like cyber, it might be slightly easier than others.
Cool, okay. Then can life insurance be fully digitized? How? You want to take that? I think you are the man.
I think life insurance, yes, it can fully be digitized. Nowadays, we have tons of gadgets available, tons of new technologies available to onboard a client, all the way to risk processing, underwriting the risk, and finally claims and claim management and all those things. Certainly, it can be digitized. It is being digitized by quite a few of the new incomers of the insurance industry as well. So I think the answer to that one is yes. How? It depends upon how complex your own systems are and how can we apply a plaster tape on top of them in order to ensure that there is a new shiny UI, a mobile app or something that can be shown to the clients while we work on the dirty nitty-gritty underneath it to ensure that the new lives with the old one So how? It's something that is up to discussion, depends on the complexity you have. But the answer to that, can it be done? Of course, the answer is yes.
I like the optimism. Way to go. Then, second last, from which non-financial sector can reinsurance business benefit the most by taking over and transforming their technology?
Yeah, I would
Brave
say
enough
that
to take the question.
it
Go ahead.
doesn't matter with insurance or insurance, but it's my perspective, the cross-industry working. It means that you have to look, for example, the car industry, what can you cooperate together? And my point of view, the most important mindset to think in ecosystem. Which part of the process would you cover and which partner is necessary to this ecosystem? Because I'm looking for a Chinese insurance industry and what we can learn in Europe from Chinese to think in ecosystem, to think in platform, that from each problem, and as I mentioned, the insurance industry is an amazing industry because in every life cycle is include us thinking as insurance. And I cannot say this is exactly the car insurance or this is in, the health insurance or health sector. In every part of the life cycle is included. And be creative, be think big. How can you cooperate with startups, with existing company, with government and so. And in this case, to create the value, because the most important point to think from the customer-centric point of view, convenience. Which problem can you solve with your approach for the client? And I think this is the most important point.
Okay. Good. Last and a very short answer for, question for Richard, but hopefully a very short answer. I just saw time's up, but what is the typical life cycle of new product introduction? What technologies are you using?
Cool, so we can come in at any stage of the product design, whether that's at the very beginning at ideation point, so then it can take slightly longer, but on average across all of our 40 products it's been under 6 weeks. Does depend on the product's complexity and the integrations required. In terms of the technology we're using, we're cloud-based platform running micro services architecture. We think this is the best way because it's modular, it can be interchanged, swapped out, and we think it's the most future-proof way.
Great. Excellent. So, thanks again, first to the audience. Great being with you all. I hope you enjoyed the discussions and the insights. Thanks as well for the questions. Big clap for our panelists. Thanks for being here and sharing your know-how, experience, and also in some cases, future forecasts, which helps me. So, with that, a good round of applause for all of us. Thank you.